I mentioned this on my last episode. So I started doing the intro. I used to do it post. So after I was done, I would do it.
You'd like slice it in?
Slice it in.
Right.
And now I just programmed it in here.
Perfect.
And this is just so much easier. And then I could just do like any ads, like, one of the sponsors is Ride Clean, which I'll get you a bottle. That's my product.
Absolutely.
Anyways, that's it.
Fantastic.
This thing.
Yes.
The phone, design, Samsung, everything about it's freaking amazing.
It's great.
Freaking amazing.
Yeah.
I was using it, but as a secondary line.
Right.
And I used it consistently. But then I switched it over to Mint Mobile.
Okay.
Okay. They hit me up and they're like, hey, we have a promo, $90, unlimited everything for 6 months.
Okay.
I was like, all right, cool. So I sign up and I had Google, Google Fi before that.
Yeah.
So then I switch over and nothing's working. And I hit them up and I go, hey, what's going on, guys? And they're like, what do you mean what's going on? I'm like, look, the phone's not working. I have an unlimited plan. It's not working. It's a secondary line. It's not that big of a priority, but like what's happening?
Okay.
And they're like, let's go to your settings. So they say, oh, you have it on 3G, 5G. I go, yeah, that's what the world's running on. And they're like, oh, you can't do that with our service. I go, what do you mean? Yeah, because where you live, and I live in Studio City in the middle of LA.
Right.
They go, where you live is there's only 2G available. So you have to go to settings and do 2G only. I'm like, what?
2G is like at least 5 years old.
It's got to be old, at least. At least.
That's very...
In other countries.
Yeah, in developing countries, they're using 2G, I think.
No, it's 5 years old in developing countries.
I hear you.
So that's it. Nothing worked. I never got text messages. I wouldn't get images. Nothing.
Because the phone is built for 5G and 4G.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem with the compatibility. If it was a phone from 5 years ago, it would work much better.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So then because I wasn't getting messages or calls or I had to be outside, I just never used the phone and I really just stopped using it.
That's too bad. I love it. I love watching, because,
YouTube,
I work in kitchens and whatever. So if even a recipe or whatever, I just have it sitting like this. I take a look. I see what's going on. And it's fantastic. I love it. You don't need to lean it on anything. It's also compact. Also, the issue with breaking the glass, even though Samsung's almost never break compared to iPhones in terms of glass.
Ooh, fighting words.
No, well, I see all these iPhones with, maybe because there's more iPhones.
Yeah.
Even though from what I know, Samsung is not Samsung, but Samsung sells more phones internationally, all over the world.
Worldwide.
But so being closed like this, you'll never ever have to worry about breaking the glass. So it's great.
Yeah, and I love the window in the front.
Yeah, it's great.
You can just see your messages real quick.
You can see,
just browse without being intrusive of like, hold on, let me look at my phone. Kind of looks like you're just looking at time.
You can even do your tap, your payment.
Yeah.
Just like this with the thumbprint and then
done.
Boop.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. I think when Apple comes out with one like this,
yes,
it's going to be fun because that's the dilemma for Apple users.
Right,
it's the operating system. It's this hooking up to my MacBook. It's this hooking up to my iPad. It's this hooking up to like everything, my Apple Watch.
Yeah,
So if
environment.
This had the Apple environment or operating system.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this would be so fucking. This would be insane.
It would be a big seller. I use Apple products as well. I use an iPad, and I've always used. Since probably 2002, I've switched over from PC to Mac in terms of my laptop. But the phone I've always kept as an Android.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, the environments don't really blend, but I never, now that, iTunes is kind of dead, that was the big problem in the beginning in the mid-2000s was integrating the iTunes with the Samsung, and it was impossible and it was bad. But now there's nothing really that I can use,
But what do you mean iTunes is dead?
Well, iTunes in terms of being the library for everybody's music. That was the library of choice. There was really not much choice at the time. And now everything is just sitting in your phone on your hardware. You have all your music, or you can go through streaming, right? Through Spotify, or there used to be Pandora. Yeah. There was also Google Music for a while. I don't think that exists anymore. I'm not even sure. But now I don't even store music anymore. Now I just stream music. And I don't even need to use Spotify or any other apps. I just go to YouTube or, do a playlist, let it play, let people choose it. But I guess it's because I listen to a lot less music than I used to. I used to listen to music hours a day, and now I listen to podcasts hours a day. So
yeah, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I almost never listen to music.
no,
Just like when I'm lifting weights, like when I have to count reps or sets or something, I have to count. But as soon as I'm out of that, it's podcast driving, podcast riding,
Everything.
podcast walking.
everything. I cook. I mean, I work sometimes in a space for 14, 15, 16 hours, and I have very few breaks.
Let's jump into that.
Yeah.
How do you introduce yourself? What do you do?
Okay, well, my name's Amira, and I am a private chef here in Los Angeles. I started out as just a grunt after cooking school in '94, and I worked my way up to what I do now, which is, generally speaking, work for ultra-high net worth people and in their homes. That's it, really. I've been freelancing mostly since I got here in November. I'm Canadian. I emigrated in November as an alien with extraordinary ability,
Nice.
which makes me very proud, and all based on my work.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's very rare for a professional cook, for a chef to get that designation, so it's really great.
That's amazing.
And as soon as I got it, I gave my wonderful boss, private client in Toronto, I gave him a couple of months' notice. Shout out to Steven. Steven, yeah, he's great. And so I gave him 2 months' notice. I trained a new chef, and I set up my life to go. And I had my eye on California for years and years because I was here in 2006 with Cirque du Soleil. I was head chef on tour for them for 5 years.
That's beautiful.
So I came here to California with them for a number of months.
And then you ditched them. You're like, I'm staying.
With my first motorcycle that I got in Texas, because everybody at Cirque, a bunch of people at Cirque got their licenses in Texas because it's so easy. It takes one day. I never rode a bike in my life.
Really? So
Yep.
you weren't even a citizen?
No.
And you could just get a license and
Yeah, you can get a license because I had a...
Texas.
Absolutely. Thank you, Texas. So a bunch of us, I think it was 6 or 7 of us got licenses in Texas. And then I bought my bike in Texas.
So
and
you
I
just-
followed the circus with the bike. And we got to California. I crossed the Rockies, which I'm a brand new rider. I had no idea
Yeah.
what I was doing. Absolutely no idea.
You're brave.
That's what they tell me, but I didn't see it like that at the time. But it was unreal, and you're very limited in time.
Yeah.
Because if it's more than 700 miles, you have 2 days. If it's less than 700 miles, you have 1 day. Because the trucks arrive, and you have to start working, so everybody flies.
Yeah.
I rode, I did...
There was nobody saying, hey, don't do that. What the
Yes.
fuck are you doing?
Yeah, the
What are you doing? If
tour
anything
services
goes
director.
wrong, yeah.
She was a rider, her and her husband. She was one of the managing directors of the show, and she was great. Everybody packed their bikes and shipped them because they worked an extra day compared to me. I would finish on, Saturday/Sunday at 6 a.m, finish my cleaning, and they would have that extra Sunday, and they would have to start on Tuesday, so they would not be able to ride, but I could ride as a kitchen manager. So I just said, I'm going to do it. I mapped it out. There was no GPS. There was no nothing at the time. I wrote everything on paper and taped it to the tank.
Wait, what do you mean? What are we talking about?
When?
Yeah.
This was 2006, 2007. I didn't have, there were no
That's right.
phones.
It was
Yeah.
MapQuest.
Yeah, but I didn't even have any kind of hardware or anything. And
so
I had
crazy,
no
huh?
idea what I was doing.
iPhone was introduced in 2007.
Yeah.
So
But
all
there
it
were
was,
no smartphones. We had the
yeah,
Motorola
Trio.
Razr.
There was a Trio, but it sucked.
Was that a smartphone? Was that like with a...
At that time,
Yeah.
it was actually the first touchscreen and QWERTY keyboard.
Okay.
So you don't remember the Trio?
No.
It was so fucking cool. It had all the potential, but Apple came out the next year and
With
blew it out of
something
the
better,
water.
yeah. Well, we had we had our iPods, and I
your
remember
iPods,
we all
yeah.
had iPods, and but we had for the circus we were given Motorola Razrs,
I remember.
and those are manual phones. Those are those are not smartphones.
Did you see the? Do you recall? I'm sure you saw it, but it's been so long. But do you recall when Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone?
I do. I
You know,
remember that.
He was
Yeah.
like, we made a device that
Yes.
you can call and listen to your music.
It was all about the music.
Yeah, it
Because
was.
iPods were the biggest thing. I was on my like 4th iPod by that time.
Yeah.
And that was a big deal because, okay, call's cool. You mean I can also listen to my music without a separate piece of hardware?
Yeah.
Yeah, the iPods were huge. Everybody had them. They started out super thick, I remember, and they ended up being like paper thin.
I miss those. With the
I still
thick
have
ones.
mine,
Yeah.
and
Did you?
I started it up. I ordered a cable that fit,
The bigger one?
the big white cable. I ordered it. I loaded it up,
That's
and I just a couple of months ago I found it in my stuff, and it's still there. It's crazy. It's funny.
It's funny.
It's funny. Yeah. But so that's it. So I
So you were riding.
I
You
was
just
riding.
wrote down your directions.
wrote down the directions. You don't know what's going on with traffic. You don't know what's going on with construction. I have no idea where I am. I've never ridden a motorcycle in my life. I'm riding hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles.
So one
In
day
very
of
fat-
training.
One day of training. Yep.
But you've driven stick shift before. and
Yes,
stuff. So
I
know
drive stick.
The mechanical. Okay.
Yeah.
So
and I'm good mechanically,
Right.
I think, compared to a lot of people.
And then you just started racking in miles.
Yep.
Did you post it to your Instagram and Facebook?
There was
I'm
no.
kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, Facebook was just starting.
Yeah,
that
Facebook
time.
started like 2004. I think they went public because remember it was like university stuff.
I think we started 2007.
Well, 2007.
Yeah.
It started in 2004.
I think I
Right,
started
privately.
But I did-
2007 they opened it to the public
Yeah.
because it was MySpace before that.
Yeah, MySpace, Friendster. But
C-Pixel, was it C-Pixel?
I don't know.
There's another one that was kind of gangster.
I don't remember.
No.
I wasn't even. I tried MySpace,
C-Pix or something.
but MySpace. I was in a weird chat group at the time, and I was hacked by one of the crazy members of the chat. And I said, you know what? I'm just gonna dump this MySpace stuff. I don't. I'm not into it. But the thing is that I did take some pictures because I had to take it. I had a regular camera at the time. We had no camera phones. So, I have like 20 minutes to stop. I can grab a coffee. I can fill my tank. I would perch the camera like on a railing, stand there with the bike, take the picture and go. So there are some pictures from like maybe 10 or 15 pictures. I did Texas to Columbus. Then I did Columbus to Denver. Then I did Denver to Seattle. Seattle to Portland. No, Denver. Denver to Los Angeles. Then Los Angeles. That was crazy.
Yeah.
That was insane. I had to.
What was the
cross-
time? What was the time frame? Like you did this in like 6
like-
months and
Every 2.5 months.
every 2.5
Yeah.
months you're traveling.
And I would tell
That's a
myself,
good little break.
and I'll say, I'm never going to do this again because you arrive, you're like a crazy person.
Yeah.
You're crying, I mean, it's just the trauma. It sounds crazy, but you're doing it in
is,
like between 12 and 22 hours, depending on the trip. And you
Yeah.
can't stop. It's not like you can stop. Like when I was riding through, when I was
And
crossing,
you don't know where the fuck you're going.
no idea.
And mentally, the mental stress of like, if something happens,
and you're not technically a good rider. You don't understand the physics of the road yet. Like Texas to Columbus, I didn't know that Texas was a truck route. Basically, 90% of the time, I was boxed in by trucks.
I know you mentioned this. What was the bike?
It was a Honda Shadow Aero 750.
Wow.
And I installed a back rest because then I did end up having a back operation, but this is before that. So I had a lot of lower back pain.
Yeah.
Years and years and years of handling heavy things in kitchens, 80-pound bags of potatoes, racks of chickens. I mean, your back gets destroyed. So I knew that without the backrest, I'd have to. So I installed the backrest, which was great. And I was just,
Yeah, and the reason I bring it up is because the other factor is the technology of motorcycles.
Yes.
The suspension's different, the motor's running different, the handling's different, the braking is different,
Yeah.
the acceleration's different. Like there's so many things that, like I was catching up with some buddies of mine, and we were talking that I haven't ridden with these guys like in 15 years, and then we're riding, and I take them out, and they haven't been out riding in a while, and they're looking at all these custom bikes and all these parts and all these things, and they're like, dude, this is crazy, because even for like Harley Davidson 15 years ago, 20 years ago, there wasn't that many custom companies
Right.
the way there is today, and how advanced these motorcycles are. You know, air coolers, water coolers, like it's just
Carbon fiber.
ABS.
Everything has been, ABS. This is the first time now with my Guzzi.
Yeah.
It's the first time I have ABS, which is interesting.
Game changer.
Yeah, it's really different.
I can't ride a bike without it.
Yeah.
And when it was introduced, all the old timers were like, fuck this.
Yeah.
You know, because we were used to pumping the brakes and
Right.
controlling our skids. And,
Right.
you know, that's the way to do it. They're like, now? Forget.
It's good to know it,
Yeah.
you know, but having this security is pretty good. No, but it's become a huge market as well. That's why, I mean, people have, woken up to, companies have woken up to what a massive market this is. It's a lifestyle market.
Yeah.
It's not just a technical market. So that's a huge thing, especially with the whole custom retro stuff, for starting in the, I would say, early mid 2000s, when everybody started getting vintage bikes. And then they saw, wow, we can sell clothes, we can sell, we can do everything.
Even gear's
The
been.
gear, the add-ons, the customization, the paint, the pinstriping, everything. And it becomes huge. And then it trickles into other types of bikes, then sports bikes, and, just everything.
Yeah, performance.
Yep.
Talking about the Circus du Soleil.
Yes.
How was it working with them? Are they, because they're a special, unique breed of people.
They are.
They're talented, and
They are.
And
You have to be a vagabond in a way too.
Yeah, and exactly. And it's very physically and mentally fucking stress. Are they cool? Are they crazy? Are they wild? Are they dramatic?
everybody's an individual. We had on my last tour, I was on 2 different shows. There were like 24 different nationalities. So there's a lot of culture clashing. There are people who are like, maybe a little bit not friendly. The countries aren't always friendly. We had Chinese, not on my show, but we had Chinese artists. Some were a lot younger, and they have, we had a school on tour. So we had teachers, we had trailers with school for the kids, and then the kids of the artists as well, which has now stopped. They don't do that anymore. But they had their own school. They had their own people watching them all the time. They were basically on loan from the Chinese government. So it was very interesting. There were some very cool people. There were some heavy party people. There were some very private people who were in the company for 20 years. They would never join for a drink at the hotel. They would never join on little trips when you went, doing little touristy things in the countries we visited.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So there's all sorts of characters. Some people are, like I said, heavy partiers. Some people are super private. It was a really interesting experience, I have to say. 5 years I was with them, so I got to see a lot of countries, a lot of travel. It was great for me as a cook. I got to experience a lot of food culture.
Yeah, and what does that consist of? Like, people's habits, and some people are vegan, some people are vegetarian, some people are...
Yeah. Well, we have, everything is mobile. Everything is on trucks. So basically you have like...
Your kitchen.
Yeah. The kitchen, the coolers, everything. So one semi-trailer, like they take off the walls and, you have a back wall that's like a door.
Right.
And you have a whole walk-in fridge and freezer. Then my office. Then there's another one attached to it, and that's the hotline with the ovens and the stoves and the dishwashing area and all that. Then you have another one, which is the buffet line where everybody comes and takes food.
Oh,
right?
so it's buffet
It's
status.
a buffet style. And then you have like 5 more trucks that are all opened up, and that's the dining room. So everything gets folded up, and you have to stash everything, every chair, every table, every piece of equipment inside the fridges when they're turned off. So it's like a Jenga game. Everything had to be perfect. You even had Tetris, exactly. Yeah. You had a layout from the person who was there before you, and then you'd go, that's not a good fit. Let me switch this. And then you switch up the specs and you fix it and you make it. So it's always a continuous fixing of the system.
There's always some adjustment.
Right. And it's very, shutting down tear down and set up is a lot of work.
How impressive was the truck's kitchen?
It was very good quality. It is beaten up a bit. It's traveling all over the world.
Obviously.
Sometimes you have two kits. You have like a European kit and you have a North American kit. So it doesn't have to, the semis don't have to be shipped across the ocean and other. See
the do not disturb option? See?
Yes, you're right. You're right. Let me put it here so it doesn't. So you have, how do you call it? You have sometimes kits in Asia. It depends because it has different electricity. It has different, So it's a whole system. It's a massive infrastructure. You have plumbers with you. You have electricians with you, welders, riggers, everything. So you have everything. Like you have the big top. And then you have the artistic tent, which is connected to the big top with a tunnel, so they can do their training and their meetings, and then go straight onto stage.
So intricate.
And the tents fit like 2,500 people. It's not a small tent.
No, of course.
Right. And I had like 180 people to feed, cast and crew, and you have to feed them when stuff's shutting down too. So tear down, you have like
and what's spaghetti. The schedule like? 3 meals a day plus snacks?
Well, I would. We would create food from the morning until like an hour after the last show. So some days the show ends at like 10. So we're not out of there before 11. Some days there's earlier shows, they end at 4. So we can be out of there at like 5:30. Or there's 7, so we can be out of there at 8:30.
So you're in there the whole time, just...
Yeah, you're always
like from those times food. You're always producing food
because they have to come in. There's set times, but they come in before training, after training. Somebody's not scheduled to train until 4. Somebody's scheduled to train at 7 in the morning. So
you're continuously,
yeah.
Right,
and we would do like a big brunch on Sunday. Yeah. That was the only hot breakfast. But aside from that, we'd have pastries and fruit and everything out, yogurts and all that.
What do you mean it was the only hot breakfast?
Breakfast generally was not hot. There was a little station with toast and a little electric griddle with a pan so they can make an egg if they want. But everything else was like continental, like everything was cold. So we had cheeses and cold cuts and fruits and vegetables, cereals, croissants, all sorts of stuff like that, juices. And then there's the toaster area. There's all sorts of kinds of breads. And
Parlez-vous français?
Oui, un petit peu.
Je parle-vous français comme ci, comme ça?
Oh, oui.
Yeah, that's all.
That's enough. That's enough for a woman who speaks French, I guess.
To get drinks.
To get a couple of drinks.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you my quick story.
Sure.
My French story is in high school. I took a French class. The professor was Japanese, teaching French.
Yep.
Everybody in the class was on the football team.
Okay.
So all we remember was ridiculous things. So, for example, I remembered how to say 79 or 19, these neuf, which was like these nuts, right? And then it was 79, sucks on these neuf.
79.
So, yeah, but we would say suck on these neuf, like.
You guys.
So, and then we would we continue with like 179 is
179.
We just continue doing this over and over. And then the Japanese professor would call one of the guys Bruce. He'd say Bruce. And we would just laugh our fucking ass. Like nothing was serious. And then that was all.
But you all passed, I'm sure.
Of course. Fucking flying colors.
You guys were great.
Cool. Yeah.
Great students.
Otherwise, we'd beat up the teacher or something.
I can understand.
So, but anyways.
Yes. My Cirque history was I was there from 2005 until 2010.
That's so fucking crazy.
And I toured the whole time. And I did a year in Japan, which was life-changing.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That's
where these come from. These were all handmade in Japan. So
that's awesome. Did you get anywhere made in Japan?
No.
No, because it's been made in Japan. Those are fucking badass.
Yes, they're still pretty amazing. I cover them. I use sunscreen. I never expose them to the sun, so they stay beautiful. It's a whole the entire tattoo culture there is very amazing, and there's these unbelievable rituals you have to go through with the tattoo artist. It's wild.
What do you mean?
And there's also a language barrier. Well, these are Yakuza style tattoos, and a Japanese person who's not Yakuza cannot get these tattoos in Japan. Because we're Gaijin, we're not Japanese, we're white people, they don't care. They're like, whatever. We don't care. They're like, you know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Kick
kind
rocks.
of subtle racism in the culture. I mean, it's the way it is.
It's everywhere.
It's the way it is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're Japanese and you want tattoos and you're not Yakuza, you can get Western tattoos. So you see people heavily tattooed, but it's all Western style tattoos. It's all like maybe rockabilly tattoos or whatever. It doesn't matter. Gore, you know, anime, whatever, but not these. And there's a whole thing, you know, you're expected to bring food. You're expected to bring alcohol, you know, and you're there. This took 67 hours.
Whoa.
So that's a lot of meetings with the tattoo artist. It's like nine times I went there. And, you know, you have to bring food. You have to bring, you bring gifts. It's a huge gift society. Everything is about gifts over there.
Yeah.
So it's very cool. It's wild. And you can't really
I feel
tell.
like that's a lot in a lot of cultures compared to American
Yeah.
culture.
Yeah.
American culture is like, what do you want? Why'd you bring me that?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like foreign.
True. Yeah, I'm also Israeli as well as being Canadian. And it's a much more kind of, you can't go to somebody's house empty-handed.
Yeah.
You bring a cake, you bring something,
Yeah.
right?
A bottle, wine,
Anything,
whatever. Yeah.
anything.
This-
Something for the kids, you know. But here it's different. And in the West it's different. But there it was pretty amazing. It was traumatic. I mean, it's very gentle, very quiet. The room is very quiet. You know, you don't hear a machine running. The guy's just poking and poking and poking. It's all done by hand. And
Right, because they don't use. That's right. They don't use a machine.
some do use machines, but that's why I got it done there. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had this done if I was not in Japan. I mean, I
Right.
like tattoos, but this is something it's a dying art. And even people who do hand poke do the outlines with the machine. And he did everything with hand poking. So there's maybe, I don't know, 100
Does it hurt more, or it just takes more time?
It takes more time. The machine, I think, probably hurts from my experience because I have other tattoos. The machine it doesn't just poke, it kind of tears the machine. It's brutal. So it leaves you more raw, you know, but it does take a long time. But Japan is, in my opinion, everybody has to go to Japan once in their life. And if they can do it through work, even better, because it's very expensive.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did my last tour. The end of my work with Cirque was a year in Japan. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
That was amazing.
That's on my list. I do.
Oh,
wanna go
you
there.
have to go. It's life changing.
Yeah.
It's the only place in the world, and I've traveled to dozens of countries that I had culture shock.
Really.
Yeah, but it took a couple of months, just because of the way they do business there. It's completely different. Like, I'll give you an example. I was on site, and there was a large entertainment company that was our partners there in Japan. They had their trailers and their staff, and they were helping me staff the kitchen. I had to get about 10 locals just to be kitchen hands, cashiers, help with the cleaning, stuff like that. Now, everybody has a job in Japan. It's very hard to find people to work. You have to get, housewives, and you're not going to get a cooking school graduate. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
They all have jobs. So I was talking with the production company on site, a couple of days before we're supposed to start training and everything, training the new employees. And we talked about what I need, what I'm looking for, shook hands. Great. So it's like 7 a.m, the first day. My crew is there, my full-time cooks. There's 4 full-time cooks, and there's like 10 locals. So the full-times are Cirque employees. And we're waiting and waiting and waiting. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, this culture, these people are always on time. I mean, so I go to the trailer, and I talk to the guy. I said, hey, what's going on with the temps? He said, what do you mean? I said, we talked about, I hired 10 people. He goes, no. You didn't write an email, and I was waiting for your email. And I'm like, what? And this was shocking to me, because this could ruin like a lot. I mean, we're working, we have to get ready, we have to unload food, we have to start prepping. He goes, no, you have to email everything. And then you have to have the entire office CC'd on it as well. Because that way, this is a culture, in my experience there with work, that nobody takes an initiative in terms of taking responsibility. The whole office has to be in on it and everybody has to know, so everybody is responsible.
Yeah.
There's no individual, oh yeah, sure, here, handshake, I'll take care of it, no worries. That never happens. So that's when I found out that everything has to be like, also they almost never say no. They don't say no. It's just maybe. And it depends on how long they wait. Like they do a lot of stuff like, maybe. Now, if the hum is long, that's an absolute no.
Right.
It's never going to happen. So you have to learn these things. And this is something.
At least you have like a sign. Because here in LA, everybody's like, yeah. But that's like, no.
That's also something I have to learn because I'm new here.
Yeah. No, here everybody says, yeah. Everybody says, hey, you want to go riding this weekend? Yeah. And
see, I would never say yes.
Yeah.
Like I would never even, I would say
which
maybe.
Which is a great skill.
Yeah.
Which is a great skill, but that's a skill that people can't develop here.
That's really a shame.
I've known people that like, hey, you coming over tomorrow? Yeah. Call them in the morning. Hey, you still coming this afternoon? Yeah. Hey, are you on your way? Yeah. I'm 5 minutes away. They don't show up. They turn off their phone. They go fully MIA. And then the next day, it's like a fucking movie. Oh, man, there's a helicopter and dinosaurs and the moon. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? But it's a
reputation. I think maybe it's in my work, my industry.
Right.
Because you work for, like, the creme de la creme.
Right.
Like the top tier of human beings. I mean, not in terms of anything except money and status and celebrity. But, I mean, your word is everything. That's all you have.
Yeah.
That's all you have. But I've been that way my whole life. I will never promise, especially if the word promise comes out of my mouth, that's it. It's done.
Of course.
And if there's going to be a delay, even a delay by 15 minutes, the client or their management or whoever, or their assistant.
Right. Standard practice would be to let people, you're going to be late, not let people know, hey, I'm late. Like everybody knows you're late.
Yeah, no, you have to. And also, there's no such thing as being on time. If you're on time, you're late.
Right.
You have to get everywhere like 15 minutes early.
Right.
But that took me into my 40s to figure out.
Yeah.
But now life is much better. There's no rushing. There's no like, I'm sweating. I have to get in here. There's like, you have your 20 minutes. You have your 15 minutes before. You check your stuff. You check your phone. You get a cold drink. Then you walk in and you're ready to go.
How is it being a private chef? And what does it consist of on some gigs? Like, somebody hires you and you live on the premises or you come and go. Obviously, you're making great fucking money, but how is it personally for you?
For me, as a professional, as a technician, for me, it's great because I don't like being around too many people. First of all, I get really into my space. I don't talk a lot. There's not a lot of noise. There's no music. It's very kind of, because you're under a lot of pressure. So I like working alone. But you're still working with staff. You also see the owners once in a while, depending on who they are and depending on if they're formal or casual.
Right, because you're just in the kitchen chilling.
Right.
You're in your office.
But generally, the kitchens are massive. And they're a central point of the house. In some cases, they're open kitchens because these people have amazing properties. A kitchen is 4 times the size of my apartment. So, and you have these windows looking out on like Catalina and, it's beautiful. But for me, I love the job. I love what I do. So for me, it doesn't really matter where I am. If the pay is less, but it's an amazing program, I'm going to go, just like with any job, only maybe, I know this is going to be sad for people to hear who aren't cooks, but maybe 10% of cooks like their job. And that's the average of all.
10% of cooks like their job. But
10% of people, period, like their jobs.
Right.
So if people think because we're creating, they think it's, you're an artist. I'm a technician who creates, who's very creative and very good at what they do. And I get pleasure from creating. I get a joy from it. I feel it, So I know I'm very, very lucky. But if you're just a technician and you're not particularly creative, you can also be highly successful. Because just like being a welder or just like being a mason or just like being a mechanic, this is a technique that you spend years learning and you become very, very good. You don't have to be an artist to be a welder, but I've welded. I took a welding course in Florida. But if you are an artist, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Same thing with a mechanic. When you see a beautiful setup, when you see an electric box, and when it's beautifully set up, the wiring is stunning, and the guy just gave everything, you go, this guy is an artist, this electrician. And then you see a mess, and you're like, okay, this guy, he got the connections right. Everything's okay, but it's not beautiful.
It works, yeah.
Right. So it's the same thing with food. We are skilled craftsmen. And you go to school to learn technique so that you, anywhere in the world you don't have to speak the same language. You know, if I'm in Korea and I'm working under a chef who learned the French technique, he just has to say 5 kilos, brunoise, carrot. That's it. Thank you, chef. That's it. We don't have to chat. We don't have to talk. The brunoise is a technical term that everybody who went to cooking school knows. He doesn't have to say, I want it 1 3/4 inches by one. This is a big time waster. So when you have a technical understanding of the craft,
so there's a whole language.
There's a whole language. Yeah. There's also like a ballet in the kitchen, how to hold yourself, how to keep your space, how to hold knives and other tools, how to clean tools, how to, there's 1,000 things that run through your head like any technician, like any skilled laborer. And for me, I'm just the luckiest person in the world because I wake up, I think about food. I go to sleep, I think about food. Somebody calls me for a job. If it's a freelance, I start, talking with the client. Okay, so what are we looking for? What's the style? What's the idea? What's your decor? And then the images start going through my head and I get all excited. I take out the book and I start doodling or I start writing down, what I'm going to need to buy. I do everything tons of time in advance. There's no rushing. By the time I get to the client to cook, this is after shopping and everything. I mean, it is so solidified, the image in my head. It is so clear that there is absolutely no double thing. I've already been in her kitchen. I've already seen her fridge. Before I even did the shopping, I asked to come in. Can I come in for an hour on my time? Just want to check out the space, see what tools and equipment you have, see your dry goods. Because why should I buy more bay leaves if there's like a whole container of bay leaves? Right. So I go in there, I do my, my pre-op, I check everything. I check, what juices she has, whatever it is, oils, all the oils I'm going to need. Then my shopping list gets cut in half, which saves everybody time and money. Wasting money does not take skill. People tell me, oh, there's no budget. You're like, great. But in my head, of course, there's a budget. I'm not going to waste food because I can. Who would do that? It's the most unprofessional thing. People who can't clean a fish properly, they're wasting 1/3 of the weight of the fish. Why? If I'm skilled, I can make a beautiful fillet down to the bone. I'll waste maybe 15 grams of fish on the bone, but it should be on the fillet. It's a kind of a professional pride, but it's the professional way to be, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's
You're
great.
so passionate about it.
I love it. I love it so much. I'm very lucky. That's what I said. So working privately is the top tier.
What about opening up your own thing later?
When I was in Toronto, I had my own little tiny, it was the size of this room. I had my own place in Toronto for 2 years. And this is while my green card was still in motion. So it was kind of just a thing. And it did incredibly well. I was the only person working. And I did grab and go meals, plus some catering. I mean, I had a table like this, an oven and a fridge, and the people were right there. And I'm just working, making birthday cakes for people. So it was very successful. It was wonderful. It was just so much joy. It was such a neighborhood thing. Everybody in the neighborhood came. When COVID started, I did very well because it was all takeaway.
Right.
And people, whoever was on UI, unemployment insurance, I gave them free food.
Wow, that's amazing.
I said, come at the end of the day. And these are people who were my clients. Right. So they bought food. But I'd say, you know what? I'm closing in 20 minutes. You can grab those 2 in the fridge. Go for it, Yeah. I also made food in jars, like sauces and meat sauce. And
that happens too, which I have a question. I have a friend, I no, it was a friend of my brother's.
Okay.
And his dad made he made good money, but he never saved money. So
Okay, what did he do for a living?
I don't even know the
Okay.
full details,
Okay.
but towards the end, at 75, 76 years old, he had to continue working because he never saved money.
Correct.
And
Okay.
he worked at a McDonald's cleaning up.
Yeah.
And he would almost cry every night because he would see how much food gets thrown away from
Yeah.
McDonald's. Like,
And you can't give it away. It's against
exactly.
It's against their policy. Yeah.
That's where I'm getting at.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
against their policy, and it would just destroy him. And they actually ended up firing him once because he grabbed some of the food and was giving it to like homeless people.
can't.
Yeah, he got fired for
Because
it.
here in the States, especially,
this is
lawsuits
years.
and
He's
stuff
not
like
even-
that, the food can be bad.
Yeah.
It's just not good form for a multinational corporation. They can't do it. But there's a lot of other people who do give away food.
Yeah, and then I've heard about programs like that. I remember
With
I was in
hotels?
San Francisco and there was a company picking up all the leftover foods, and then they would just
Yep.
give it to the homeless.
So people do try.
There's an organization.
Yeah. Yeah. In Canada, too, there's all sorts of stuff like that through hotels, especially because of all the banquets and everything. But for me, opening a place, that was a great experience. And I was lucky, I had a master chef who worked for free, me. I could never afford to hire myself. So I was in a very different, and within a month, I gave myself a salary, a small salary, just because I could. And I should, I should.
course.
I have the, why not? See if you can do it. And wow, within a month, I can give myself a salary. Okay, you're doing okay. But then I got my green card. No, actually, I went, my lease was going to be up for the shop. And it was high COVID. Everything was closed. And I'm like, look, I can open a bigger place. I'll need to open a bigger place. I'm not going to stay here for another 2 years because I had a 2-year lease. I was on a main street. Tons of amazing places were closing. I said, okay, I need a place for seating. I need a big catering kitchen. I was already dreaming, of what I'm going to do because I completely left my green card thing on the side. Because Trump for 4 years didn't allow any green cards from outside. And it just, all these delays, I basically said it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
So just keep living your life. And I got to Toronto because I worked on yachts for 7 years. And then I left the yachts, went back to Canada. That's a whole different story. So, so what happened is that I did love opening a place. But the lifestyle that I can have, I'm 54 years old.
You look amazing.
Thank you.
I did not think that.
But also, I have very, very high stamina, which was a huge problem as a child. You're hyperactive, you're nuts, you're like manic and crazy. But it gave me a career because at my age, I work with 25-year-olds and they're chugging, energy drinks, and I'm like, okay, guys, let's go. I want to get out of here by midnight. I just have this incredible stamina, but I want to enjoy at this point in my life, I want to enjoy my off time.
Yeah.
So you have to find a niche, and that niche is private chefing. But you have to be really good at private chefing because you're working for people who have very, 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 very high standards. They eat at the best restaurants in the world. They get the best service on earth. They get anything they want, anytime they want, anywhere. So on the yachts, somebody wants crab legs, you send a helicopter. It's going to get the crab legs. I mean, for some people, that's how it is. So it was also a challenge. No,
so
forget
amazing.
about it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you can, you can be.
I know that, but when I hear it, I'm like, wow, that's so fucking.
I was flown from Florida to Mexico to cook one meal for my boss on a private plane and then flown back the next morning. So, yeah.
Now, when that happened, are you like, this is fucking awesome? Or like, this is convenient?
As a professional, I'm saying I was very thankful.
Of course.
I brought my tools and equipment. I didn't have to go through customs, not regular customs. You have to go through customs, but it's not the same. You have private customs. I'm comfortable. I can lie down. I have, I can go get a soda. There's catering. You get on as a chef. There's catering on the plane for you.
Yeah.
So it's cute. It's pretty amazing.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah.
So you're
Pretty baller.
I mean, if you have humility, if you come from nothing,
and that must mean a lot to you because you're like, this is what I'm worth.
Yeah, but that's, you know what? It's hard I have to continuously remind myself, that it's okay. excuse me, my ring keeps,
No, you're good.
it's my grandfather's ring actually.
Oh, nice. Beautiful.
Yeah. It's, I tell myself, you know, this is here for a reason, but you're always working to be better. And you're not really working to be better. You just become better because practice, you're just going to become better. So in this level, the technical, I don't have to worry about technical anymore. I know how to make my own pasta. I know how to make my own sausage. I know how to, you know, cure meat. I know how to barbecue. I know how to smoke. I know how to do everything. Now it's the minutia of dealing with, you know, ultra high net worth people and what they're used to in terms of treatment, of your demeanor, of your skills in knowing what they want before they know what they want. So these are the skills that are being fine-tuned now. It's not the brute force technical, you know, how to create food anymore. Now it's how do I create food on an island with nothing there?
Right.
I have to plan 3 weeks ahead. The refrigeration, the storage, the transport. I have to make sure everything the logistics become amazing.
Yeah.
And that becomes so exciting because you're like, somebody says, oh my God, I forgot that. You go, it's okay. We contacted them on Thursday. They're ready to go. Don't worry. It's all good.
That's cool.
You know, so you work together. You're like this, all these little pieces. But that's what it comes down to at this point. I love it. I'm very grateful. And I try to get along, you know. I try to, people have this idea about chefs being egomaniacs. I've been difficult, you know, in the past. I know.
Because you know what you want.
Also because the stress of creating what they want with people around you who don't really care if it happens or not, because it's on you.
Right.
If it works out or not. And that hurts because I go out of my way to make other people's fall as soft as possible and saying, I got you. You're covered. Don't worry. Oh my God, I forgot to prep how do you call it? I go, I saw it on your list. I saw it wasn't crossed out. I did it for you.
Yeah.
You know? So if everybody was like that, the world would be a beautiful place.
Yeah, but they're not. They're not selfish assholes.
It depends. But even them,
there's a lot of them.
And you have to deal with them because sometimes they manage you.
Yeah.
So you can't take things seriously. You can't be, you know, you have to take it down a notch. As soon as you feel, for me, it's as soon, because I'm a big talker, as you can tell. I'm very animated. I make faces. I dance. I sing. I go, you know, in the kitchen, whatever. When things are easy peasy. When the stress starts, I shut down. I'm completely silent. There's no talking. There's no nothing. There's yes, no, maybe, over there, whatever. Like because of the stress. I try to communicate as little as possible. So when I see that coming, I'm like, okay, just take it easy.
One breath at a time.
Yeah, you can talk. You can chat.
Has that eased off more now than before?
Yeah, I was not the easiest person to work with.
Yeah.
In my Cirque years, for example, even in some of my yacht years. If anybody I worked with is watching, they know what I mean, or listening. I had certain standards.
Or both.
Or both. And I wanted them to happen. And you're on a time limit, and I would stress out. I would, you know, I wouldn't be horrible, but I would be difficult. And in the last, I think, 5-6 years, especially being in the private sector, in this kind of, you know, service, it's gone down.
Yeah.
So I'm much easier to deal with. If you know your flaws, you can help yourself. If you don't know your flaws, you're going to suffer, you know? So I looked at the things.
Straightforward.
That's just the way it is. There's no ego here. It's going to be better for everybody, you know, if this changes.
But there's also like a peace of mind that you kind of like, you know what, we're good. Like it's fun. Like, for example, the first 20 or 25 episodes that I would record, I would flip out with any sound outside of our conversation. Like if there was like the elevator or the button or this, I'd be like,
right.
oh, hold on, let's just reset. You know, if somebody had to use a bathroom break, I'm like, oh fuck.
Or
you
my
know,
ring
like
smashing.
Yeah. You know, like anything would drive me crazy. And now it's like, I can have Circus du Soleil in the background and you know, it's good.
That's the thing. You have to get to a point where it's good enough.
Yeah.
And for a person who likes things done right, well, beautiful, organized, professional, good enough is a difficult line to find, but you have to find that line. Like I'll say something, I'll look at a plate, I'll go, shit. I go, that looks like shit. You know, and somebody next to me says, it's fine. I go, yeah, but look, the sauce, if it was a little tiny bit thicker, it wouldn't leave that. And then you have to pull back and say, okay, so next time the sauce is going to be checked on more. You can't leave it to him. Just double check before service. It's on you. It's not on him. You're his boss. So you ease off and you say it's good enough.
And exactly. And I'm not trying to say like,
and that's hard.
I don't care, but what I'm saying is
you have to pull back.
I don't want to overthink it. I don't want to overthink it because at the end of the day, that was just like a half a second of a 1 hour conversation or 2 hour conversation. That's
exactly.
not,
the impact. You have to think, how does this impact the user, the client, whoever, the buyer? How does this impact them? Is this like gonna stop the deal? Is this gonna get you fired? Is this gonna have them send back the plate? If you say no, of course not, then just move forward.
Right.
And you know inside. Me, I have old chefs in my head saying, Amira, you're not gonna put that out. That is not going out. Do it again. And you know when they're there. And you can't lie to yourself because you're on their level now.
Right.
So you hear them say, what the fuck is that? But you get there way before it's on the plate. You ditch it way before. You're like, no, this is overcooked. No. Start again. Long before you're like, can I serve this? Can I serve it? Can I serve this? Yeah, you don't want to get to that point. Yeah. You have to look at every
miserable. Yeah,
you have to look at every component and go, okay, that's it. Get rid of it. Let's start again.
So a few things. One, it blows me away that you can have 5 ingredients and that 5 ingredients can be cooked a billion ways.
Right.
And everybody will cook it fucking different.
Sure.
And it's just even simple shit like pasta. Like, there's a billion ways.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to talk shit, but I cook fucking great pasta. Like I cook outstanding pasta that people have like, dude, this is not even regular. This is fucking outstanding pasta. And my what I'm getting at is I hate going to Italian restaurants because I can't comprehend how many people fuck up pasta.
Oh, it's like, very easy to fuck up pasta.
But I can't comprehend it because I'm not doing nothing magical. I'm just fucking boiling it and getting it, making sure I'm testing it at, it's at the right.
Al dente, yeah.
Adding the right amount of salt, adding olive oil. Like I'm just doing basic shit, adding some garlic butter maybe afterwards or something, sprinkle. You go to fucking places, like there's a place down the street, they've been there forever, and it's like their pasta's fucking terrible.
Is it a shithole or is it a great restaurant?
It was known to be a great restaurant. It's been there forever.
30 years ago?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Those places, they don't want to change.
Yeah, they don't want to change.
And the world passes them by.
And then you're looking at their kitchen, they're using regular bullshit oils, and they're looking.
Right.
You look at their salt, and it's just that regular. Like it's just.
I'm not a salt snob myself. There's a lot of ingredients that are like.
I don't fuck around. Like I'm talking about like, I do like my sea salts. I do like Himalayan salts. I do like, for example, if I eat a steak, the fucking Salt Babe. When I hate that guy. I was in, I can't stand them either. But when I was in Dubai and I ate the steak with big grains of flaky salt.
Yeah, you want chunky salt on your meat. Sure,
that's kind of what made the meat kind of in a bigger deal.
Because otherwise, it dissolves with the heat, and it's
right,
just like a salt slime on top.
Right, exactly. So
but there's a lot of places.
How frustrated? Or one more, I'm going to complain about. Yeah. Mexican food. How do you fuck up Mexican food?
It's very easy because
you have good meat.
Mexican food's complex.
Well, I'm talking about like what I get it.
If you mean Tex-Mex, like American Mexican food?
No, I'm talking about how do you fuck up tacos?
It's very easy to fuck up tacos.
Everybody fucks it up.
There's 10 components inside a taco. It's very easy to fuck it up.
And everybody fucks it up. And to me, it's if you get good meat and can get a good salsa or make a good salsa.
It's not just good meat. It's how you cook the meat. Well, you don't need great meat. You can have okay meat. You don't need the best meat in the world.
Yeah.
There's a lot of misunderstandings about food. There's also a lot of snobbery with food. And I'm not a food snob.
Yeah.
Just because I'm a professional cook doesn't mean that I fall for all the nonsense with food, And there's a lot of it out there. But people use it to sell very expensive food in restaurants, to sell expensive foods in farmers markets, to sell expensive...
Which a lot of expensive restaurants sometimes have bullshit food that frustrates me too.
Right. But sometimes... it has to do with the way they cook the food, not the actual quality of the food.
Right.
Quality is important.
You get good quality and fuck it up, and you get bad quality, make it great.
Exactly. You know, especially if you grow up poor or if you're a poor cook,
Yeah.
if you started in the trenches, you know, in restaurants in the trenches.
And making gourmet shit with top ramen or something.
Yeah. I mean, you learn how to take ingredients and turn it into something beautiful. And you can do that. And of course, everybody wants the best, you know, tomato grown in the perfect conditions. But if it's not
organic and
I'm not a big fan
alkaline.
of I'm not a big organic. I don't fall for that. I find it a little bit.
Dun dun dun.
I won't get too into it.
Yeah. Wait.
That's,
Wait, I don't know what. Yeah, fuck it.
a lot of it is scammy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's called big organic. A lot of the big
Yeah.
multinational corporations own all the little organic farms that you buy from.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine. He worked at a restaurant, and they would get all their seafood from a company called Fresh. The company was called Fresh.
Sure.
So they would get fresh seafood from.
They can
the
legally
company
say
Fresh.
that. They can legally
But
say
it
that on their
wasn't
menu.
fresh, yeah.
No, but there's a lot of seafood you can't get fresh.
Right.
They flash
No,
freeze
and
it.
they wouldn't get it fresh.
Right.
Just the company was called.
So they can legally put it on the
Yeah.
menu.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. You know, just like almond milk. Almond milk is one word. It's a trademarked word. Almond milk, one word.
I heard they couldn't even call it. They can't call it milk no more.
Well, let's say almond milk.
Almond beverages now.
But the thing is that because it's like almond milk, one word, almond beverage, let's say, under it. So almond milk is a trademarked word. It's 90% water, if not more. There's a tiny amount of almonds in it, and that's fine. I know what I'm consuming. A consumer who thinks that they're drinking pure milk from almonds is buying into a fantasy. And a lot of reality behind food is fantasy, especially in expensive restaurants, very high-end restaurants. You know, it's not just the food, even though I can say that 90% of high-end restaurants have spectacular food. Maybe even less, depends. Internationally, it's probably less. But it's the entire, it's the performance of the space. You know, the Egyptian linen tablecloths and the beautiful silverware, and everything is measured with a measuring tape, table to table and plate to fork. And it's, you know, we're talking.
Yeah,
and what
upscale.
happens then when you're very, very well off and you've experienced the best in the world, you know how to see it. So you expect it in the next place. And then the level goes up and up and up. And you see it on yachts too. I've worked on private yachts for 7 years. The level, they get exposed to more and more and more things, you know. So they have snobbery, but they pay me to cater to their snobbery. So I'm fine with acting as if this grape compared to this grape is
Different.
not just different, but healthier.
Yeah.
It has this genetic it gets crazy, you know, and you just have to say absolutely whatever you want with a straight face.
Yeah.
And you make it happen.
What is it? What is it about organic food or what is it about the organic title that you're not a fan about?
It's not healthier. People think that inside the DNA of the fruit or vegetable or whatever, it's healthier for you. That's completely untrue, of course. Second of all, they say, "Oh, we don't use herbicides and pesticides." That's completely untrue. They use
that's impossible.
They
have to.
Right. They use organic herbicides and pesticides.
Right. And some of it's not even organic because my understanding is for a food to say organic, 70% of the process has to be organic.
There you go.
You know, because of the amount of people and the population, there's no other way. It's impossible.
That I didn't know. I thought that everything they used, but the thing is that you have a product like copper, actual copper. Copper is a carcinogen. It causes cancer. It's well known. It's not, you know, you're going to be consuming metals, you know. So copper is one of the main herbicides sprayed on green leafy vegetables. Kale. Think of the kale, you know, explosion in the last 10 years. Collard greens, all these things. They need to be sprayed with copper. Copper is a carcinogen. Carcinogen causes cancer. Just because it's organic doesn't mean it doesn't cause cancer. Yeah. So there's a lot of, there's a lot of argument about this. I'm talking about myself personally. Right. From what I've seen, I've also seen farmers markets with lemons, you know, that say, like a supermarket actually, with lemons that say organic. And I saw them unloading from a from a box. I mean, they had a few of them, so it wasn't just a box filled with organic lemons. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So they were
mixed.
They were lying. They were telling people that it's organic, putting non-organic lemons on display. But that doesn't matter. You know, people say it tastes better, it's better for you, it's healthier. There's just no proof of this. There's actually the opposite. It's been proven that it's not. Yeah. People are like, well, I don't want chemicals. Well, water's a chemical. They go, no, man-made. Right. Everything's a chemical.
Exactly. It depends how far you want to dive into the rabbit hole.
Language is like hijacked in many ways in food.
Right.
Like you said with the word fresh.
Right.
So I would rather buy from a local farmer, buy beef from a cattle rancher or whatever that slaughters his own beef and sends it to the butcher to get it cut up, where he can't get a organic designation for so many reasons. That's also a cartel in itself. Getting organic designation, there's the USDA, and then there's also another one, and they fight between each other. The more private, more expensive one says the USDA organic is garbage. Don't believe anything they say, because they want you to get their designation because it keeps their system afloat. Why is the USDA organic not good? I don't know. I don't care. I don't buy organic. I couldn't care less. So I'd rather buy non-organic meat from a butcher here, 100 miles from here, where there are
What about
ranchers.
Grass-fed?
I'm not a big fan of the taste of grass-fed. I'm fine with it. Grass-fed does not mean organic either. So you have clients who tell me I want organic grass-fed. There are like 3 places I can get this meat. It's hard to find. But if that's what they want, that's what they get.
Yeah.
You know, so I would rather get, let's say, non-organic from a local farmer, a local cattle rancher or whatever, than get organic from a huge multinational corporation that is industrial meat production, but it's organic.
Right.
You know, so people have an image when they think about free-range chickens. Legally in the United States, you can have a hanger with 500,000 chickens. Inside the hanger, there's a window that's 1 foot by 1 foot. And once in a while, the chicken can go outside into a closed 10-foot pen, and that's free range. But there's still 100,000, 500,000 chickens in that hanger.
Right.
But because there's a little hole in the siding, in the aluminum siding, where one chicken once in a while can walk out, it's legally free range.
That's crazy.
So, people think brown eggs are healthier than white eggs. It's just what the chickens are fed. So people,
Is that all it is?
That's all it is. So they capitalize on the ignorance. And, our society is very well versed in, convincing each other what's important in life. From what you want with your life, from what you want to do with your life, from how much money you should be making, how you should look, what school your kids should go to. So to convince people that certain foods are better than other foods because you want to make money is not difficult.
Yeah.
And when you have all these influencers and people claiming things that aren't true, selling you diets, selling you all sorts of,
magic
pills, and it's never going to end. We're going to have it for the rest of our lives because that's who we are. We want a quick fix. So, believing that eating organic food only is going to make me healthier. Okay, so why not?
Have you been to Cuba?
No, I have not. Even though I can as a Canadian, it's not a problem.
You should go.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring this up is because it's one of the few countries that I love, and I've talked about this so many times. One, because my family's from there.
Right.
Two, there's just no stores. There's no stores. There's
just
no
stalls.
bullshit. It's
just
just
and
people. It's just people
selling stuff.
And stuff they made.
Yep.
Stuff they made. There's no Victoria's Secret and Zara's, and there's no Hiltons and Sheratons, and you eat at people's houses. You want to go to a restaurant? There's like a handful of restaurants, and most of the places you're gonna eat at somebody's house. And it's the mom and the husband and the kids serving you, and you're eating home-cooked food like it was, 100 years ago.
The thing is with regulations in places like this, because all the companies
There's
work
too many
hand in hand with
regulations.
That's it. So the companies work hand in hand with the government, and they lobby to pass laws to make, cottage industries impossible. Like in Florida, there's a cottage law. You can actually cook in your house stuff that does not have to be refrigerated, cookies, dry cakes, all sorts of things like that. And you can sell it in Florida up to like $10,000, I think, a month or something. So people who have a job and want to make some extra income, the cottage law allows them to do that. In their own kitchen, they can make, jams, things like that.
That's interesting because my mom was telling me that she was talking to one of her friends, and she came into the country, and she's like, it's so hard to make money here. And she's like, well, what do you mean? Like, what would you do in your country? She's like, well, in my country, I would just make fucking tamales and go to the street and sell them.
Yeah.
Here, if I try to do that, you don't have permits, you don't have this, you don't have that, you can get arrested. It's a big problem.
Well, it comes from a good place because we want regulation, right?
Of course, we want regulations.
But what happens is there is a huge industry of regulators and people who write regulatory paperwork and people who write regulatory rules and transcribe it into books and then blah, 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 then go to events and have to talk about it with professors. And this is a whole industry. Everything is an industry.
Yeah.
So it depends on if these people get a hold on the way the industry moves, it's going to be bogged down by paperwork, and they're going to have jobs. So that's how you have to look at it. It's not a bad thing.
Right.
The main idea is good.
You're right, but there's certain things that just get going out of proportion. Like, for example, one of the reasons LA's public transportation sucks so much is because LA was built around the car.
Right.
And one of the major players during that time was Firestone, the tires companies. And the tire companies were like, you know what? Let's pull out trains. We don't need this. Everybody should drive. Let's get this going. And I remember in the 90s, there was a whole train system in LA that they ripped out.
You can see it from a Google map.
Oh yeah,
you can see where the trains used to be.
And they put buses running through there. They put buses, going through tires. So when you're manipulating and you're polluting environment and you're making it harder and complicating it for no fucking reason, like that's weird to me. And again, that's
but
one
this
example.
Is capitalism. This is the cradle of capitalism.
Right.
And there are so good social, especially like being in California, I can see there's good social projects and things to help people to some extent.
Right.
But being in the States, I mean, this place is no joke. Being a Canadian coming from a democratic socialist, it's not really democratic socialist. I mean, if you're poor, you can live, but you're not going to live very well. But you're not gonna starve in the street. In Canada, you get, there's a lot of social projects, and also people are very voluntarism is very big. A lot of people volunteer. Their kids volunteer. They work with the church. They work with the city. They get, so here, I mean, I'll give you an example, a very quick example about what happened. I think it was in Utah. Big homeless problem. What they decided to do is give homeless people shelter for free. You're going to get an apartment for free. And people are like, this is crazy. They're like, let's try it. They gave hundreds and hundreds of people apartments. And these people started fixing up their lives, going to rehab, working, but their apartment was paid for. But what happens is then you have people who are middle class people or lower middle class people, just regular blue collar people are like, wait a minute.
This is bullshit.
This guy just got a free apartment. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because he's an addict and he's fucked up and he needs help. And look, his life is better. Look, he's not, they had the whole thing in Utah about the $1 million homeless guy, about how he went to the hospital so many times. He was such a disaster. He was such an addict and such a strain on the system. He cost them, by the time, I think he passed away in the end, he cost them $1 million just to work with him in the hospital. So we're saving you money by giving people a part. But no.
Yeah.
But it's still going on there from what I understand. The homeless population has gone straight down because people are getting help. But people don't, that feeling of he's getting something that I'm not getting. Yeah, but you don't want his life. Yeah, but look, he has a good life now.
But there's two parts to that because there's always been some kind of governmental help in California, for example, and there's people that fall into that trap and like they'll get like Section 8 or they'll get some kind of help. And what ends up happening is, I've seen it, and I know people, they get stuck in that system and they think, fuck, man, if I get a job and if I make $200-300 more dollars, I'm not going to get this help.
Right. But do you think that's the majority?
I don't want, I do.
You do. Okay. In Canada, I don't see that.
Well, that's, yeah.
I just don't see it.
In California.
Yeah. I see poor people who don't want to be poor.
Yeah.
And of course, there are people who abuse the system.
No, here there's a thin line that if you're poor, you can get governmental help with your rent, with your medical,
and
with
working
food
poor
stamps,
is worse because who wants to be working poor?
Right, and if you can
get nothing
exactly, and if you can make some cash on the side and get all this governmental help, you're set. But there's those same people think, well, if I get a fucking job and I make $2,000 a month,
I won't get benefits anymore.
This help.
Right.
And now that I don't get this help, I'm going to have to pay the $1,200, $1,300 in rent plus food. And there's a gray area that's like, where is that? Well, where do you draw the line?
It's true. Because the population here in this state is the same amount of the same population as the entire country of Canada. So So I can't. I mean, LA County is the most populated county in the United States. When you see the vastness, when you first come here.
More than New York?
More than New York. From what I know, yes. Just because the size of the county's gigantic. So it has more population
but New York
per
is
square
also
mile. Yeah, right. But they may be per capita. I don't know. But notwithstanding, looking at the American experiment as something to compare to any other place in the world is very difficult.
Very.
To have this level of capitalism, bootstrap type society, there's no class here. You can be, the child of a heroin addict and a person who's been in prison for the rest of their lives, and you can become president of the United States. Wow. There's a lot of countries that cannot happen. Even if you think it can, it can't. They know where you're from. They know, So this place it's a very interesting experiment. It's
new and it's young.
It's new.
It's only
young.
What, 200, 300 years?
Yeah.
287 years or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nothing. It's two grandparents away.
And also the thing is that this is a country of immigrants. Compared to other countries where they have their culture for
they have
2,000 years, like in Romania and Poland and Germany and England and
Russia and China and India, and they have their race. They have a race. Race is an interesting topic. We can maybe have another have more of a Joe Rogan experience maybe in a couple of weeks or something. would be great to talk about. Right, but what I mean by that, because I've had the topic where
some people say there's no such thing as race. I mean, race as a thing is not real.
What I mean is probably the word is wrong, but what I mean is it's
ethnicity.
Yes, if Russia goes into war, for example, Russian people have a mother Russia, and they are Russian people and Russian blood, and they will give everything.
Yeah, but if you're from a country that used to be part of Russia, or you are a minority, a Russian minority who's been Russian for a very long time, are you Russian or are you Mongolian? There's a lot of racism towards Mongolians in Russia.
Understood.
But they were Russians for a long time. Let's say not Russians.
Well, I'm talking about like there is proud. Well, I guess that's the same thing. I was gonna say proud Italians, like Italians that are like.
But what are Italians? But exactly, what are Italians? You had the Arabs there for 200 years in southern Italy, and a lot of the blood in southern Italy is Arab. And if you say that to a southern Italian, they're not gonna be happy. Yeah. But you're like, why? It's part of your culture.
Yeah, of course.
There's the northern Italians, the southern Italians. There's that whole thing. Who's an Italian? How, what's an Italian? If you had the Moors, if you had, another culture invade you for 200 years and everybody started getting mixed, what's an Italian? Are you a Roman like Caesar was back in the day? No, you're not. You're not the same kind of people, I was born Jewish. My parents are Israeli, There's this, except for the Jufro and the nose, which is more European, more...
The Jufro.
This is the Jufro. Yeah, this is the only biblical thing that's left. of our people, you know? And, but it's true. It's true. But the thing is that, you know, people will say, well, you're not really a Jew because you're white. And, you know, they come from the Middle East. I'm like, yeah, but is it a culture? Is it a race? I don't know. We've been carrying this for 2,000 plus years, you know, wherever my ancestors were in the world, we carried this with us and we didn't let it go. So I don't know. So that's the same thing. What is an ethnicity? What is a culture? You know, like in Russia, they were all atheists, right? During the USSR, supposedly. Russians are some of the most religious people I've ever seen in my life. I toured with them. You think all of a sudden, as soon as Glasnost happened, and as soon as Gorbachev, stopped, as soon as it stopped being the USSR and became Russia again, all of a sudden everybody became religious again? No, they were just underground.
Yeah, of course.
It was all underground. And they all still prayed to Jesus, and they were all still Christians, you know? So what is an ethnicity? What is it? So here, yeah, because we're all mixed here in the West. There's a lot more mixing compared to over there where it's much more tribal. Even a Russian will say, oh, you're from this part of Russia, are you? You know, here it's like, oh yeah, my dad's Mexican, my mom's Guatemalan, my grandma is German. My grandpa's,
the person that raised me was white.
Whatever.
Exactly.
You know? So that's the difference with the American project. And the thing is that...
And you have everybody living so close to each other. You have Muslim and the neighbor's Christian and the neighbor's Jewish. And
that's a good thing, though.
Yeah, no, it's great.
That's a good thing.
It's great.
Because there's more segregation in other countries in neighborhoods.
Right.
That I noticed.
But it also is part of the reason, again, we can go back and forth on anything, but it's also part of the reason why you see so much crazy shit in the United States. You know, like you look at the Citizen app or you look at anything and you're just like, dude, there's like a shooting, a fight, stabbing, a robbery, like all the time there's something going on.
Well, when you look at the laws in California, there's a problem simply because you can steal and not get even charged.
Right.
So that's...
Which was a big problem.
People are
in
desperate.
San Francisco, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's everywhere now.
Well, San Francisco is a big problem.
It's a big problem.
They promoted it. That was the problem.
What do you mean they promoted what part?
They promoted it on newspapers, on the news, on television.
Like as positive?
No, they promoted saying we will not arrest anybody that steals anything of $999 and under.
Right.
And literally people were walking in stores.
With calculators.
And shopping carts and filling it up and walking out with stuff. So that was, it was a big problem that it was happening, but it was even a bigger problem, I believe, that they were promoting it.
Yeah, there's also no bail now.
Right.
So people skip court.
Right.
But you know, bail also is a problem in
they
some ways.
They were just booking people,
and then you're on $1 bail.
Right, and the whole jail system is another problem because it's just a fucking business. You know, of like having minimal. What was the stat? There was a stat saying United States is 5% of the population and it has 70% of the world's prisoners.
No, I think it's 25% of the world's prisoners. I don't think it's 70.
I think it was 70.
No, I don't think so. I think it's a quarter of the world's population, a quarter of the prison population. I'm going to go
back to that and check that out, but I think it was something ridiculous. Actually, here.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, fill it in.
No, you do it. But the thing is with prisons, the system in the United States is not based on rehabilitation. Other countries have much stronger rehabilitation programs. In the United States, it's a punitive program. It's a punishment program. So that makes things a little bit different. If you go to Europe, Scandinavian countries, you know, the treatment of the prisoners is different, but the entire culture is different. You can't just look at one thing.
No.
You know, so it's hard because here when it's like, listen, I grew up poor and now I'm very, very rich and everybody can pull themselves up by their bootstraps and this. And then you have other people saying, yeah, well, there's systemic racism and there's systemic poverty and poverty is not something that you can just crawl out of.
Right.
And then you have other people say, yeah, well, I was living on the street as a kid and now I'm a millionaire. So don't tell me that it's not possible.
Right.
So this is...
It's very complicated.
It's complicated.
It's very complicated. I think Arnold said it, and I don't know if it was Arnold. I forgot who said it, but somebody was saying there's no such thing as a self-made man. It just doesn't exist. It's a community and it's support, and it's
your history,
your connections. Exactly.
Yeah.
There's always something. Nobody by themselves.
Sure.
And it was Arnold, because Arnold was talking about when he came here with whatever, $2, $3, $4, $5, but he went to his local fucking gym, and when it was Thanksgiving, it was everybody from the gym that came over and brought a table and brought chairs and brought a turkey, and it was community, and I like that, but it's not come here and become
whatever
successful.
you want. But they do sell that story to the world.
But I will tell you, a lot of people that come into America can seem, again, I don't know what the stats are. I'm just talking about people that I know. But I have seen more people come into America and become successful or make something out of themselves compared to people that I grew up with, which I'm like, dude.
No, the statistics are there.
Been stuck at the same job for 20 years.
The statistics are there.
Because there's something about when you're raised here, there's this whole system of manipulation of like, you have to be a good employee, you have to show up on time, you have to do this, just they don't teach you about credit, get in debt, and that's the American life.
Sure.
And there's people that come into this country and are like, what? There's loans and business loans, and I can start this and I could start that, and there's, oh my God, and a lot of foreigners that come here within 5-10 years have their own business.
Yeah, I think that the CEOs in the U.S., I think there's a huge disproportion of CEOs in large, very, very successful companies who are foreigners. Just look at Brin from Google. There's the guy who heads Google now is South Asian. A lot of the smaller companies that become very, very lucrative and are sold to the bigger companies are started by people from other countries.
What is that? The B911 visa or something like that?
I think it's the H.
Or 8, yeah.
Well, you have to
There's
start.
a special visa.
The whole visa system here is very interesting. I learned a lot because I have a very, very exclusive visa. So I learned a lot about how to get into this country on a work visa, student visa, marriage visa, whatever, how it works. And it's very interesting. They come in on an H1 or a B1?
H1.
Or a B1.
I think
one is for seasonal workers and one is for skilled workers. I'm not really sure. And then they apply for a green card after. So the whole visa system here is, people, would kill to get a visa. I mean, the way I got a visa, I'm not sponsored. I'm self-sponsored, which is unheard of for a visa. You have to have a company sponsor you. But, the State Department looked at my case and they said, you have extraordinary ability. You've worked for some amazing people. You've been a judge for internationally known culinary associations. You're on the board of directors of a women's philanthropic culinary group, blah, 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 blah. And my whole history, the lawyer built this amazing
case,
amazing history of my life. And it's hard to believe that you think that you're just doing good. You're volunteering in Broward County in Florida. When I was on the yachts and we had off time, I couldn't work because I didn't have a work visa. I would volunteer. So I volunteered as a cooking teacher in the Broward School Board, in the Broward school system with a fantastic company called Flippany. It's Florida introduces physical activity and nutrition to youth. I'm still in contact with them. Amazing. So I worked with them for years. And because of that, it was a huge shining star on my CV for the State Department. So people should think that this stuff does help them, not just helps them inside, but helps them move their career forward as well. So people who have to get a sponsor and all that, it is tough. It's hard work. You have to keep your nose down, and you have to keep your head down and keep your nose clean and do whatever they want, or they can revoke that from you. So it's also exploited a lot in tech and all sorts of other industries where people come from India, come from China, they come to work in universities, and they are, they don't have the freedom that I have, that I can work for any employer because I'm self-sponsored. They're sponsored by a university, they're sponsored by, a company, and they know that they can be exploited, but they still persevere. And then, they go, it's okay, it's only 10 years. You know,
It's only 10
it's only
years.
10 years, then I'm gonna, and then they open their own businesses and their children are like incredibly successful. And because when you're hungry, the world looks different. When you have a little bit of desperation, I left home very early. I separated basically from my family very young. Here and there, I would, see them go back, but everything, I was basically on my own. So, I was a punk, hardcore kid in Montreal, basically like a street kid, Mohawk and those.
Really?
Oh yeah, and those people are still my friends. All those people from back then, a lot of them are still in the scene, and they go see festivals, and we meet up sometimes to see. There was a big Montreal festival called 77, and I went there a couple of years, and I saw these old friends, and still, so you can move forward if you have a vision, which is something I never had. I have no ambition. I never had ambition in my life. I just had to work to live. And then everything just grew, which is wild. Most people have these plans, these ambitions. I'm like, whatever, man. Just put me in a kitchen. I don't care. And then these things would happen. These things would start to happen. And I'm like, whatever.
You would show up.
Yeah. And I would just do it. And then the clients got bigger and bigger. The jobs got bigger and bigger. The pay got higher and higher. I became more and more respected. So I think with these immigrants, it's the same thing. They're really hungry. They're hungry for success for their children.
Well, here's the thing. If you get here, there's a huge sacrifice that you took just to get here.
For most people, yeah.
And for most people. And I understand that and I get that. What I'm also trying to say is that the mindset of a person that grew up here, that's been kind of protected and kind of, hasn't had that struggle.
Right.
Somebody that struggles is going to fucking be more looking for a way to stop struggling than a person that never really struggled.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying. So
struggle doesn't hurt.
Right.
It doesn't hurt.
Right. Americans struggle, and it's like, especially in California or something like that. Like if you're a home, I don't want to talk shit. I'm joking, but I'm not. But I am joking. If you're homeless in California with this weather, not a big fucking deal.
Well, that's why everybody comes here.
That's why everybody comes here. Because if you're homeless anywhere else,
in Detroit, in Buffalo,
you're fucked.
You're gonna die.
Yeah.
In Montreal, people pass out drunk in a snow mound, and they wake up. They have to have their legs amputated. They're gonna move to Vancouver, so they move to Vancouver because Vancouver's the warmest place in Canada.
Wow.
And that's why they have a massive, unhoused, drug-addicted population there. One of the biggest in North America.
That's crazy. And here, like, I was in Santa Monica. This was years ago. I was in Santa Monica. There was a guy on a newer iPhone than me. And he was like, "Hey, man, you got change, man?" I was like,
"Well, they hustle."
Like, exactly. No, they hustle. And I've said this before. There is a mobbish kind of thing going on here with the homeless. I don't know if you know about that.
What do you mean?
Well, every homeless person that's asking for money by the freeways, it's always the same homeless at the same corner. The same thing.
So it's organized crime.
It's organized crime. They're
so you're contributing to they're on the hook for drug money, and they make them go out and beg.
Exactly.
Or women with babies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Organized crime. I mean, people don't realize that, but that's been going on in LA for a long time. And this is why you always see the same person at the same time, and you never see any conflict. And if you pay attention, 2 blocks down, you see somebody else watching that person. And
But that's really sad.
Yeah.
It's
terrible.
I mean, it's a lot of times people talk about, people who are poor who are allowed to get something on food stamps or not allowed to get something on food stamps. You know what? I look at it this way. Everybody has the right to choose what they want with what they have. I'm not a bleeding heart kind of person. I'm a kind of a rough person. But if somebody wants to buy booze with their food stamps, I don't see a problem with that. I would rather they didn't, just for their own health. But if they're like an autonomous person with access to these funds, they're an addict. I mean, you know what I mean?
I do, and I.
It's like they have to have some freedom somewhere. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah,
they're not going anywhere in their life. They're going to
get that.
die sick.
I get that.
Alone, poor. People start arguing.
You see, what's weird is
you can't get this on food stamps. You can get this. Who do you think you are getting lobster, getting scallops on food stamps?
You see, that shouldn't matter.
cares?
Food is food.
Who cares?
I understand that part. But the alcohol part, like, for example, I do believe drugs should be legalized because you're not preventing people from doing drugs. All you're doing is making it harder to get drugs. Whoever's going to do drugs is still going to do drugs.
Right.
And now you made shitty drugs available instead of having controlled good drugs that were tested, like weed is now. But having food stamps, fuck it. If you want lobster, you should get lobster. If you want chicken nuggets, get chicken nuggets. That shouldn't matter. But to get alcohol with your food stamps, I don't know.
What does this guy have in his life? Nothing.
Well, let's just say
he wants to get drunk.
Well,
Let him get drunk.
But here's the thing. I'm thinking about this way. Let's say this is what I visualize of somebody that's taking food stamps. It's probably a family that's down on their luck. Okay, because I'm thinking a mother, husband, and a kid and collect food stamps.
Not necessarily.
Well, that's
because there's a lot of single mothers here.
So. Well, there's a lot of single mothers. So let's say, okay, perfect. Single mom, child, collecting food stamps, living, blah, right? Well, what's going to stop her shitty boyfriend from stealing her food stamps to buy alcohol?
That's not your problem. It's not your problem.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just too nosy. Who cares? I mean, it hurts because she's in an abusive relationship. She's with him for whatever. Who cares why she's with him? You know, No,
I don't care why she's with him. I'm just scared that now the guy has a motive to steal her food stamps to buy alcohol.
So he can steal the food stamps and sell them for cash. 50 cents on the dollar, whatever it is, whatever the going rate is now.
Which happens now, yeah.
I mean, you know, Tide is locked up in the supermarket here in California. Because Tide is currency.
I thought it was because kids were fucking doing the things.
No, other pods aren't locked up. And the liquid Tide is also locked up.
So fucking crazy.
Tide is currency for contraband. You can, because it's so highly regarded as a trading, you know, as a type of currency, it's locked up. I mean, think about that. A crack dealer is going to take Tide instead of money. Yeah.
Okay, let's jump off this topic because we're getting short on time. I just want to ask you one thing.
About what I'm doing now.
What's your favorite restaurant? What are your favorite restaurants?
Oh my gosh, I don't know many restaurants here.
Well, yeah, because you fucking cook for yourself. That's true.
I don't really. I'll eat like a sandwich. You know, I cook for other people. But let me think. What's my favorite restaurant?
Or cuisine?
I love Asian fusion cuisine. I cooked it for a long time at a restaurant. I love it. I love Asian flavors inside non-Asian foods. I love just Asian food in general. I love when it's being in Japan, you know, it's all very subtle compared to all the flavors here that they put in Asian food. There, everything is super subtle, beautiful and delicate. I love traditional French food. I love it. I love making it. It's so difficult to make. I love eating it. I love seeing it. It's just beautiful. I love traditional French desserts that I enjoy very, very much, like millefeuille and you know, just, you know, like, how do you call them? Anyway, the long eclairs. I love eclairs. I love making eclairs because they're so hard and you have to, like, for them to be beautiful. And yeah. But here in California, I haven't been to enough restaurants to know. I really haven't.
I don't know if they have
and now I'm keto. I've been keto for a while. It's kind of tough. Yeah. So I just go grab meat. I went to Musso's and Frank's, which is a block from my house.
Yeah.
It's a steakhouse since the 1910s. Here, I think it's the oldest restaurant in Hollywood. I mean, I had a beautiful filet and some asparagus, and it was just solid keto food. It was so good. But that's just meat and veg, you know, because that's what I eat now.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of great restaurants in California. There's places here that I've read about, just amazing Asian places, small spaces. There's beautiful, which is becoming very popular, Peruvian restaurants, places like that. But you know,
Peruvian restaurants always been good. Yeah.
When I'm off the keto, I'll try it again. You know, definitely. But now, now I'm leaving for a couple of months, so I won't be able to try anything. But so that's it. So I'm going to be heading on tour. Actually, I just got hired to work for a very prestigious, incredibly popular musical artist.
That's fucking exciting.
That's pretty wild. Pretty wild. Yeah. So I leave on Wednesday for New York. So that'll be great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to coming back with more stories.
I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.